Tadano was an ugly buffoon who thought he had Gojo Riz until he got rejected by his crush. However, when he discovered that the hottest chick in school needed help making friends, he decided to settle for the friend zone, but she secretly wanted him to clap her buns red. It all started the day Tadano arrived at his new school. While he put his stuff in his locker, he suddenly saw a girl beside him, and without seeing her face yet, he tried to be friendly with her. However, when he saw her face, he became awestruck because he had never seen such a beautiful girl in his entire life of being an anime MC. Meanwhile, when the girl saw the scarecrow, she got scared and yeeted off immediately, leaving him wondering what just happened. However, he checked her locker and saw her name was Komi. He walked to his class, thinking if he was that ugly to had instantly repelled a pretty face, and he concluded that there was no way an NPC like himself could ever be involved with someone like that anyway. However, getting to his seat, he was shocked to discover that Komi was seated next to him, and all the dudes in the class were already gunning to her face in their minds. Even though he was happy to be sitting next to the prettiest girl in school, he knew he was about to become the evil target of every guy. The homeroom teacher soon appeared and asked the students to introduce themselves. Reaching Komi's turn, she simply went blank like she had just gotten her memory file wiped, and the students wondered what she was doing. She then stepped up to the board and grabbed a chalk to dramatically write her name. The class immediately echoed with students' noise as they thought she had just pulled off infinite aura. Tadano stood up next to introduce, and trying to meet up with the aura standard Komi just set, he cracked a funny joke only, but nobody laughed, immediately sending him into an aura debt of -5,000. Later during the class, Tadano couldn't stop admiring the beauty beside him, and while he secretly watched her, her eraser suddenly dropped, so he decided to be a gentleman. However, while he tried to pick it up, this mini-budget ninja almost cut off his hand, so he got scared and quickly dropped the eraser on her table. Seeing this, Komi turned to him and gave him a death stare that made him almost jizz his pants in fear, but he took his ugly face away, pretending not to see her. After the class came lunch break, and all the students almost caused a stampede just to talk with Komi, which made Tadano realize that he was only a side character in this anime, not the main one. Bro dozed off and suddenly woke up to Komi wondering why she found it difficult to communicate with people. Komi noticed him, and he immediately denied hearing anything, scaring her off. As she almost exited the class, Tadano suddenly asked her if she had a problem talking with others, causing her to pause instantly. However, Tadano doubted that this was true since there was no way the most popular girl would have this problem, but when he saw her trembling, he realized he had just found her weakness. She returned to his seat, and Tadano tried asking her what she was trying to say, but this only made her nervous again, so he told her to write on the board or something. She headed to the board and, in chalk language, asked him how he knew she didn't know how to talk to people. He replied that he could detect from her reactions, but he quickly ran out of things to say and decided to excuse himself. However, she held him and began yapping in chalk language about her difficulty in connecting with people, even though she really wanted to. She revealed that she had been like that since she was young and always had anxiety whenever she was around people. She continued writing while Tadano just patiently read all. However, she finally apologized for bothering him with her problem and told him to forget all what he saw today. She then cleaned the board and gave a final bow before heading out. Just then, Tadano began writing too, shocking her, and they both began to have a full-blown chat through the board book messenger. While at it, Tadano asked Komi what her dream was, and she replied that she wanted to make 100 friends. Seeing this, he told her he would be her first friend and help her find the other 99, surprising her. Afterwards, she replied thank you and bolted off before Tadano could blink. He then made it his new goal to help Komi, who can't communicate, make 99 friends. The next day, they both met at the locker room again, and when Tadano greeted her good morning, on their way to class, he told her they needed to begin some vocal exercises, so he paused and told her to try saying "let's be friends," as achieving just this would help her get to her goal in no time. But Komi immediately became a petrified rock as she tried to say it, which made Tadano realize that this anime was going to be a really long one. However, he now saw her his friend and was determined to help her, but there was a problem that Tadano failed to consider. You see, their high school was a famous one and it required students being unique to pass, which would require interviews, and this was about to be Komi's greatest challenge. Komi asked for one more try. At this rate, she'd make 100 friends by graduation. A few minutes later in the class, Tadano thought of his promise to help Komi, and he felt his work should be very easy since she was already popular. He came up with a very direct plan, which was to meet the students and just tell them that Komi wanted to be their friend. Then they'd accept, and that would be all. Now that he had his plan, he checked around to see who he would meet first and saw a group of baddies goofing around at the front. So he walked up to them and said hi to one of them. The girl responded with a smile like she had been expecting him, but as he tried talking like he had planned in his head, she came closer and whispered to him how much of a worthless loser he was. She then told him never to talk to her again before leaving with her friends. When it was lunchtime, Tadano had gone around and gotten the same response, which began to make him frustrated because this only meant he was also a loner with no friends, just like Komi. He started to rethink his life's choices, regretting that he offered to help Komi in the first place. Just then, he thought about his last resort, which he had been avoiding initially. There was a girl named Osana, his childhood friend, who could be a potential friend of Komi, so he stood up and walked over to her seat. Osana, surprised to see him, asked what he wanted, and as he tried to talk, he suddenly saw Komi beside him. He then introduced Komi to Osana, but then, he suddenly realized that Osana was on a skirt and wondered when the heck he became a girl. Osana replied that she had always been a girl, but Bro argued that she used to wear a boy's uniform in their old school. You see, this was the reason Tadano didn't want to come to her, because she was a compulsive liar who always said A but did B. She was very weird and toxic. But her strength was that she had the charisma to become friends with just any random person within minutes. Tadano, however, swallowed his pride and told her he needed a favor from her. Hearing this, Osana teased him by asking if he wanted to touch her melons, but he quickly shut her down because Komi was listening. He then turned to Komi and asked her to make her request just as they had practiced earlier, but Komi started skipping again like a cracked DVD. Osana wondered what the heck was going on here, so Tadano explained that that was Komi's way of asking to be friends. He then properly asked if she would become Komi's friend, expecting an easy yes, but Osana hit them with a cold, hard no. Shocked, he called her to a corner and asked why she turned Komi down that way. Osana told him that she had always known Komi since she was young, and all her attempts to be friends in the past only caused her pain, because the mofo always snubbed her. Even now, she still suffered PTSD whenever she saw her. Tadano, however, tried to explain that Komi didn't mean to snub, and he told her that she would understand if she just tried talking to her. He then asked if she would walk home with her, and Osana wondered why he took this more seriously than his grades. She teased him by asking if he liked her, but he replied with a solid no because he was just a bottom feeder in the social chain and not in her class. He only wanted to help her because she needed it. Hearing this almost made Osana moist, and she agreed to walk home with her. Later, after school, as Osana walked home with Komi, she tried engaging her in a conversation, but Komi just left her on read, which began to get on Osana's nerves. Meanwhile, Tadano was watching them from hiding, and he realized that even the so-called people's girl he knew could help Komi. Just then, one yellow-headed orangutan appeared out of nowhere and began to simp like DD, saying he could sell everything he owned for Osana. He asked her to go out with him, but Osana hit him with a straight no and even said she was a transformer, shocking Komi and Tadano. However, the dude had watched too much Andrew Tate and wasn't gonna take a no. He ripped his shirt and grabbed Osana, saying he wasn't gonna let her go. Meanwhile, Komi suddenly tapped his shoulder and dude got scared of her death stare. She gave him his key, which had fallen off earlier when he ripped his shirt, but her ominous stare terrified him so much that he ran off immediately without taking the key from her. Osana was surprised to see this, and suddenly told Komi that she would be her friend before taking her leave. Tadano announced that she had just made her second friend, which made her happy, but Tadano was happier that she was improving. The next day, during lunchtime, Osana came with her lunchbox, asking Komi if she would love to eat together. But Komi just stared in shock, even though she was happy, which made Osana scared a little. However, she grabbed a seat and asked Tadano if he would join, but Tadano remembered the classmates who would be after his life if they saw him eating with Komi, and he declined. Meanwhile, Osana went on to bombard Komi with questions, making her overwhelmed, but Tadano interrupted and declared that Komi wanted to make 100 friends. Surprising her, Osana immediately schemed something and told Komi she wanted a particular type of coffee, with a condition that she'd stop being her friend if she didn't do it. Komi immediately headed for Starbucks, and, after pacing around the entrance for a while, she headed inside, but only to come out again due to her anxiety. Meanwhile, Tadano watched from afar. She finally summoned the courage and walked up to the barista to give some sign language. The baldy, not understanding her crap, gave her the menu, but unfortunately, Osana's description was not on the menu. However, the barista suddenly thought it was this moment he was born for, and he unlocked his inner James Hoffman. He then went on to make something special for her. Komi thanked him and headed back to Osana, but when she saw the coffee, she told her this wasn't what she requested, immediately tanking her confidence. Komi became saucy because of this, and the two spent the remaining part of the day begging her. A few days later, during lunch break, a girl named Agari entered the chat. She also had social anxiety, just like Komi, except that she could talk instead. While she was in the library, she got nervous because Komi had been stalking her. The truth is, she had always admired Komi because she seemed like a goddess, unlike herself, who was ugly, short, and always had stage fright. She became so worried that someone as dignified as Komi was staring at her that it made her stomach hurt. Because of this, she went to sit in the restroom because it was her personal space where she didn't care if anyone saw her or thought about her. However, just as she thought she could live there forever, she suddenly felt Komi's stare through the door and immediately got so scared that she began to ask Buddha for forgiveness. Meanwhile, Komi was only there because she was worried if she was fine, but didn't know how to ask her. Komi soon left, and Agari quickly ran out. But just as she stepped out to the hallway, she met a teacher who asked her to inform her class that the gym class would be in the gymnasium and not outside. She immediately panicked, but when she felt Komi's ominous presence again, she agreed to do it. Dragging herself to the class, she wondered how she was going to talk before the whole class, and while she worried, she felt her twin spirit hug and encourage her not to overthink it. This made sense in her head, but as she tried to talk, she became embarrassed and tried to leave, but instantly saw Komi staring again and forced herself to deliver the teacher's message before dashing out. She ran to the rooftop, excited that she was able to say it. Meanwhile, Komi walked to the class's entrance looking like an abandoned duck, and seeing her, Tadano asked her what had happened. To answer this, the story rewinds back to 20 minutes earlier. Osana told Komi and Tadano that she had standards for the kind of friends she made, and she supposed that was also the case for Komi. Tadano wondered what she was up to, and she revealed that she had compiled a list of people from all her friends who had the same personalities as Komi, and could potentially be her friend. The first on the list was Agari, and seeing her, Tadano realized that she had been clumsy during their class introductions the other day. Osana explained the symptoms of Agari's anxiety, and Komi immediately felt like she was family because she could relate. She had to need out of there and began to stalk Agari from then on, hoping to become her friend. Back to the present, realizing this, Tadano assured her that she would get another chance. Just then, Agari appeared, feeling shy, and she mentioned that the way Komi was looking at her was scary. However, she said even though she didn't know why Komi had been looking at her, she came to thank her for making her change a little. Tadano was shocked but seized the opportunity to suggest that they could be friends. Hearing this, Agari quickly ran to hide, saying she was not worthy of being Komi's friend, but she could try her best to be her dog. And just like that, Komi made a new friend. The next day in class, Komi brought out a hand-me-down phone and told Tadano in writing that her parents had just given her a phone. He asked her why she was getting a phone that late, and she replied that she didn't need it, making him feel sorry for her. However, she told him she now needed it because she had made a lot of friends, thanks to him, and she needed her friends' numbers. Tadano got excited immediately and suggested they go get Agari and Osana's numbers right away. Komi soon approached Osana, and after some sign language, Osana understood what she wanted and gave her her number. She headed to Agari next, but Agari was too stupid to get the clue of what she wanted, so Komi gave up and returned to Tadano to ask for his number too. Tadano's brain almost got fried just typing his number on her phone, because peasants weren't meant to be this blessed. Meanwhile, Agari arrived at that moment to give Komi her number after Agari had told her that Komi needed it. Some days later, the homeroom teacher asked the class to nominate who would become the class president, and one dweeb walked to the board to write down Komi's name. With no one else nominated, the teacher asked Komi would take up the role, but instantly made her nervous that she began to shiver. Tadano, foreseeing the mess, thought of nominating himself, but before he could raise his hand, Agari raised hers, saying she objected to Komi becoming the class president. The class almost ate her alive because of this, and Tadano felt emotional because she had sacrificed herself to save Komi. However, Agari pulled a plot twist, saying that the role was too small for Komi and she should rather be given a higher position. The class echoed in support of this, and they all unanimously called her God. After this, the teacher said they still needed some to be president though, and the whole class nominated Tadano, so he could serve as the class god, leaving him dejected. Later that night, Komi sat in her room checking her phone, wishing she had the balls to call Tadano, and while she pretended to call him, she suddenly dialed in but hung up as soon as he picked up. Tadano sent a voicemail back, and she shockingly replied with a broken voice, which left him in awe. Meanwhile, Komi became very embarrassed. The next day, during the school break, Tadano noticed Komi watching some classmates playing games together, and asked if she wanted to play too. Komi nodded in response, but Tadano got discouraged when he realized that the students playing hated him more than dog poop. So he told her he would invite Agari and Osana after school to play together. However, hearing this, Osana walked over to the classmates playing and openly asked if Komi wanted to join, shocking Tadano. But Osana told him that tough love was the best way to improve Komi's people skills quickly. Meanwhile, the students were very excited to have a god play with them. Tadano and Komi joined the game even though the group saw Tadano as a worthless loser, and after the first round, in which they allowed Komi to win, Osana suggested they play something more frisky, the shoot booth, in which the loser would have to show their kissy face to everyone. The group got excited because this could be their chance to see Komi's kissy face. The round started and the others quickly won, leaving Tadano and Komi in the round. Bro realized that he winning would put Komi in a very tight spot, so he deliberately lost. However, the students just stood up immediately because no one wanted to see his creepy face.
Emotional, damn it!
However, back in their seats, Komi thanked Tadano for allowing her to have fun. Some weeks later, a girl named Mekaru, an NPC who had been fascinated by Komi all this while and admired her from the shadows, got the opportunity for some screen time. She had one goal, which was to beat Komi at the physical exam. For context, the physical exam had 4 parts: vision, height, weight, and seated height, and Mekaru desired to win her in at least 3 categories so she could get the needed closure for her low self-esteem. As the physical exam began, Komi won in the first 2 parts, which quickly made Mekaru feel that there was no hope for her, but she luckily caught up in the other 2, and it ended in a tie, soothing her a bit. Meanwhile, Komi wasn't even aware that some buffoon was competing against her. However, Tadano won the title of the most useless MC in the history of anime, as he was pretty much average in every category. The next day, on Tadano's way to school, some creep snuck up behind him and stole him away. Meanwhile, a new NPC got in named Ren, and even though she was doing fine with a lot of friends at her disposal, she began to glaze Komi like a doofus and would almost wet herself from just looking at her live her normal life. It got so bad that she even secretly got her hair strand and licked it like a dog before sealing it away in a bag. She suddenly saw Agari talking to Komi and got angry that such a lowly life was talking to the goddess of the class. Agari noticed the ominous aura and took to her heels immediately in fear. While Ren thought this was her chance to approach her crush, Osana interrupted and started talking with Komi. This made her mad, but Osana just casually said hi before continuing her conversation with the mute girl. However, Ren finally came to talk to her, but this only made Komi nervous, and she just stared in return, making Ren scared and switched on at the same time. She thought it was a privilege for a commoner like herself to be ignored by Her Majesty. Osana was not feeling this BS, so she just took Komi away before the creep infected her with madness. Afterwards, Ren cornered Osana in a place and aggressively asked what her relationship with Komi was, to which Osana replied that they were just friends. Ren then threatened her, requesting that Osana introduced her to Komi, so Osana did this, and just as Ren sat down in Tadano's sit beside Komi, Komi became terrified, but this brown-headed bozo was far too gone as she began to admire Komi. The bell soon rang, and Ren took her leave. But after she left, Komi became so nervous that Osana became confused and wondered why Tadano was absent that day to interpret what this bot was feeling. Meanwhile, Tadano woke up tied in a room with Komi's pictures all around, and he wondered where the heck he was. He noticed the College of Ren's pictures with Komi and realized that he was in her room, but he became scared of what would happen to him as he might just rot here, and no one would notice he was missing. Back at school, Osana met Ren, who wouldn't leave Tadano's seat if she could come over to her place, but she replied that she didn't want to lose the nice moment she was having with Komi. So Osana told her that Komi would come along, exciting her. However, when she instantly remembered that Tadano was in her room, she panicked and wondered what to do, but she agreed to Komi coming anyway. Getting to her house, she stepped in first and removed all the pictures on the wall, while threatening Tadano not to scream or she would relocate him to 6 feet below. She locked him in a closet and then welcomed her guests in, but as soon as Tadano heard Osana's voice, he screamed for help. However, Ren told them it was the neighbors, but the screaming continued. Ren soon stood up to prepare some tea, and as she left for the kitchen, she warned them not to open the closet. But immediately she left. Osana got so curious she decided to open the closet, only to find Tadano tied there. Ren returned with a pair of sharpened chopsticks like she was about to turn the whole scene into a horror flick, and told Komi that she did that to Tadano because he was worthless and shouldn't be her friend. She added that she was the right friend for her and then asked if Komi would love to be her friend. However, Komi shook her head, shocking her, and went to loosen him. Komi then left a polite farewell message for her, and as she headed out with the other two, Ren blocked her, yelling that she did this for her. However, she replied with the coldest anime line in history that read, "I choose my own friends," and sadly, Ren was not one, leaving her dejected that Komi couldn't even speak to her with her mouth. The next day at school, Tadano noticed Komi wasn't talking to him and reasoned she must be angry from what had happened the previous day. She hit him with the classic, "We need to talk" message like every pissed-up girlfriend, which further confirmed to him that she had to be angry. They met outside, and she wrote that they needed to stop being friends, leaving Tadano wondering what happened. He soon realized that she only said that because she was feeling terrible, because he went through all of that because of her. She feared that something worse could have happened to him if they hadn't found him. However, Tadano decided to hit her with the same "I choose my own friends" line because he thought it was cool, which made her blush. Komi then apologized to him.
I just don't want friends with you, Tadano. Would you like that?
Just then, Osana arrived with Ren, and she apologized for causing trouble.
I'm sorry about yesterday. I hope you're able to understand.
Boy, that was a terrible apology.
Komi, I want to say sorry to you. I was being super selfish. I'm not the one who gets to decide who's worthy of being your friend. I promise I'll never do this again.
Komi replied with "alright" on her notepad, but this made Ren feel even more terrible because Komi still wasn't talking to her, and she threatened to isekai herself, which sent the others panicking. Tadano immediately got permission from Komi and explained that Komi had a problem communicating with people, but she couldn't believe it. However, Tadano went on to explain everything that has been happening since this anime began, which made Ren admire Komi more. Now that she knew Komi wanted 100 friends, she looked away, expecting her to ask her to be her friend too. Komi eventually asked the golden question.
Yeah, of course we can be friends, Komi!
She's truly delusional.
Some days later, Komi appeared in school looking odder than usual because of her uniform, and everyone began to give different reactions, which made her quickly go to ask Tadano if she looked weird because everyone be tripping. But his brain gets fried immediately.
I think it's nice.
She's worried. That was everyone's reaction to Komi's summer uniform.
Later that day, during the gym class, Mekaru makes another cameo appearance, and today she was determined to beat Komi in the fitness test since they tied in the physical test the previous day. The physical test, which contains 7 rounds, soon started, and Komi quickly defeated her in 6, making her feel like the loser that she was. However, the last round was a 50-meter race, and Ren became determined to put all she got into this so she could win and at least one to make herself feel better. She thought this round didn't require natural talent and Dina, so she had a fair advantage to win. The race started with Ren running ahead with all her strength, and while she thought she was winning, her nitro boost got exhausted. So Komi ran past her to become the winner of the race, shocking her. Afterward, she approached Komi to tell her that seeing her run made her realize that she had strayed from the true path. So she extended a handshake to show her acceptance of defeat. However, Komi instantly felt nervous again and didn't return the shake. Ren misinterpreted this as Komi's way of telling her not to give up yet and keep working on herself. This made her feel so good that she announced that the rivalry would continue. Following that, while in a locker room, Osana suddenly asked Komi if they could come over to her house, instantly making her freeze. Tadano read her anxieties so accurately as he said that she had always wanted friends over, but didn't know how to go about it. Komi finally nodded in affirmation, and after school, they all headed straight to Komi's home. Upon entering, they met Komi's carbon copy, who happened to be her goofy mom, named Shuko. She excitedly welcomed them because this was the first time her lonely heck of a daughter would bring friends home. In her room, the three just sat there, looking at themselves like suspects, and not knowing what to say. Shuko brought in some tea, and just as she left, Osana pretended to go to the restroom to see if the two would get frisky and attempt developing some plot. But she became disappointed when she saw the two innocent buffoons just staring at each other for complete 15 minutes like they were in a competition. They all soon got to checking Komi's photo album, and after a long day, Komi saw her two friends off. However, she returned to her room only to receive a picture that Osana had secretly taken of them, so she went to tell her mom she needed to make a picture frame. The next day at school, Komi randomly came with a request to try out ramen at a fast food restaurant. Tadano found this strange, but Komi replied that it was her dream to go to a ramen shop. However, Bro still didn't think it made any sense. Just as they deliberated on this, Agari appeared and identified herself as a ramen expert, shocking them. She took them to the best ramen shop in town, Ramen Daro, and after they ordered, Komi gulped it all up in a jiffy that made Tadano question if this was the same girl he knew. However, she quickly left in embarrassment, and the others had to rush their food to catch up with her. While the others felt too full to the brink of puking, Komi suggested they come back some other time to eat again, but they told her they would pass on this. However, after about a week, they craved the ramen again and all went back there. A few weeks later, while Tadano, Komi, and Osana were wasting some precious time, this low-budget assassin look-alike named Nakanaka came and started spitting out bedtime stories about Komi being a long-lost princess she had been looking for. According to her, she felt some centripetal force pull her toward the class, only to realize her princess was there. She then told Komi that if the dragon forces were 10 meters apart, it could cause an explosion, so they had to hurry up and form a blood pact. While the two wondered what this girl was talking about, stupid Komi already ate up all the fables and even asked to hear more, so Nakanaka yapped a little bit more before yeeting out of the class. After she left, Tadano mentioned that the blood pact thingy must have been Nakanaka's way of asking her if she wanted to be friends, shocking Komi. However, Osana changed the subject by saying that Nakanaka was exactly like how Tadano used to be in their old school, making him embarrassed, and Komi got very interested in this conversation. Osana revealed that in their old school, Tadano used to ore farm for a living, and he thought he was the god of Riz, so he approached the prettiest girl in his class to ask her to be his girlfriend. But she replied with a hard no, and when Tadano asked why, she told him he was cringy, which immediately reconfigured his O's and installed low self-esteem.exe there. Hearing Osana talk about this made Tadano feel like entering the ground. In the next scene, during gym class, the teacher asked the whole class to pair up, and everyone ran toward Komi to ask to pair with her. But Nakanaka was left alone in her loneliness, and while she tried to pretend like everything was fine, the thought got overwhelming, so she sat down helplessly. However, Komi shockingly approached her and asked to pair with her. After the stretching session, Nakanaka wanted to say thank you, but found it difficult to and easily turned to her fairy tales. But Komi just watched her silently, shocking her. They eventually formed a blood pact and became friends. A week later, Tadano got to school early that morning and was surprised to see that Komi was already in class. However, she quickly gave him a letter that made him wonder what she was so nervous to tell him. So he opened it and found a text written that was meant to be a joke. Meanwhile, Bro didn't get it and asked what this was about, to which she replied that she had seen on TV the previous day that humor was important for communication, so this was her giving it a try. She wrote another joke, and Tadano wondered what was up with the daddy jokes, but said it was funny in the right situation. Khan wrote yet another one.
Who trusts umbrellas? They're shady. Well, it is rainy season. Maybe if the joke isn't told out loud, it loses some of its impact, you know?
This made Komi embarrassed, and she disappeared from his sight in a shameful manner, but suddenly called him and said another joke over the phone, shocking Tadano. Komi returned to ask how the jokes were, which put him in a dilemma of either telling her that daddy jokes just weren't funny or he just fooled her and played along. Osana appeared at that moment, and he was relieved that this would save him from that critical moment. She showed a note containing a joke that Komi had apparently put in her locker, and realizing that it was from Komi, she said she had initially thought it was a death threat code. She then bluntly said it was poor and put Tadano on the spot to show Komi how it was done, only for the bird brain to say roses are red, violets are blue. He was no better than Komi anyway. A few moments later, Osana randomly asked Komi where she always got her clothes, and she replied that she had never gone shopping, shocking her and Tadano. Osana then suggested they go today, but she got nervous and said it was scary. However, Osana managed to get her to agree while also dragging Tadano in against his will. She also called Agari to join them. Meanwhile, Ren was eavesdropping from outside. They soon got to the store, and while they prepared to start shopping, Ren appeared out of nowhere, acting surprised to see them and claiming it was all coincidence and stuff, but Tadano didn't buy that crap. However, they asked Komi what kind of clothes she liked, but the idiot was clueless, saying her mom had always gotten them for her. So Osana suggested they have a contest of whoever picked the best dress for her, under 10,000 yen, wins. After trying out the first three suggested by Ren, Osana, and Agari, and getting average reviews, Tadano doubtfully brought his while putting up a disclaimer that he wasn't good at this. However, when Komi wore it, she became the low-budget princess Nakanaka was talking about, and everyone loved it. She got back home and admired the clothes so much that she decided to go to the salon to get her hair done. And after giving the hairstylist some stress because they had to choose her style without her talking, she finally fixed her hair and headed home. However, when she got to school the next day, all her friends just said hello as usual, not noticing the new hair, except Tadano, who realized something was odd and asked if she had cut her hair. As soon as the others heard this, they felt terrible that they had never noticed it at first glance. Later that night, Komi couldn't sleep as she started overanalyzing her interactions with her friends earlier that day and doubting her life's decisions and choices. Because what the heck were those awful moments? The following day at school, Osana started getting afraid and wished she could just die, worrying the others. But while Komi got concerned, Tadano asked why as though it was no big deal, and Osana revealed that the summer exams were next week. She suggested they form a study group so her excessive love for fun wouldn't cause her to repeat the class. They headed to the library after this for the first time in their lives, where they discovered Agari was a library committee member. As they entered, they saw this horrible-looking goblin who warned them to keep it quiet. After sitting down, they wondered who the heck that monster was, and Agari informed them that she was Garimi. She had one function, which was to smack anyone who made noise with her paper fan, and after 3 strikes, you are out. They soon started reading, and just a few minutes in, Osana had already gotten 2 strikes and was on the brink of getting cancelled. She got even more distracted and began playing Jenga, but Tadano got scared because Garimi was earnestly looking to send them out if at the slightest possible chance. However, Komi joined in, and Bro had no other choice too. The tower soon fell, and the noise was rewarded with a smack each to their heads, and Osana was thrown out for good. Tadano, who had already smelled this from miles away, felt bad, but Komi told him she had fun, though, surprising him, and he accepted that he also did. They eventually passed the exam, but Makaru, Komi's rival, fell below Komi again, and this time that she began to consider leaving the show. The summer break started, and just a week into it, Komi had finished all her homework and became really bored alone at home. She thought of going out and nervously took her phone to invite her friends out, but gave up before she even made a call. Meanwhile, Tadano was also bored and thought of hanging out with someone. He reasoned that Komi might be feeling worse since she wouldn't be able to call her friends even if she wanted to. He took up his phone and tried calling too, but he got shy and dropped it again. However, he suddenly received a call from Komi and became shocked. Back at Komi's room, she managed to muster the courage to call Tadano, and after abruptly hanging up, she received a call from Osana, who asked her to a pool hangout.
I'll go too.
All right! Great! Just meet us at noon in front of the Yomikiri station. See ya!
Yes!
Following this, the pool day, and Komi packed her bags ready for the day's adventure. However, due to her anxiety, she checked through her bags 7 more times to see if she had missed anything. Afterward, she left the house and headed to the train station. She was supposed to meet Tadano and Osana. After waiting for about 30 minutes, the other two arrived, and seeing her dress, Osana realized it was the dress Tadano recommended the other day and complimented her. However, Tadano was embarrassed as he told her she looked great. Getting to the location, Tadano discovered that Osana had invited Agari too, who approached them running with her beautiful dangling melons. Just then, Ren also came with her friends, and Osana was shocked because she hadn't invited her, not to talk of her gang. When Ren and her friends came close, she claimed it was a coincidence again, as she and her friends had also planned to come to the pool. She then asked them all to have fun together since they were already here, but Komi was terrified of their number because more people meant more stress for her. Later in the locker room, Ren began to watch and admire Komi again, and she was excited that she could see her from a closer distance since she had only been seeing her from afar in the last 8 days during her stalking sessions. She was even more excited that she would get to see her skin, but became disappointed when Komi brought out her school's swimsuit. So she approached her and told her they needed to get her another swimsuit ASAP, because she didn't want her gang thinking she was some classless girl who just got lucky with a pretty face. Outside, the girls appeared one after the other in their sus swimsuits, and the other dudes with Tadano almost got their eyes popped, leaving Tadano questioning if he was straight or bent. As soon as Komi appeared in her new swimsuit, everyone had their heads flying, and Tadano looked at those dudes again because bro couldn't just relate. They soon got to the water slides area, and Osana paired with Agari immediately because she's got them huge balloons and would serve as a cushion if things went south. However, the others began to fight over who to go with Komi, and even got on rock, paper, scissors to decide who paired with her. Meanwhile, Tadano just got in behind Komi, and off they went. After 4 more rounds, they headed to the lazy river, and Osana suggested they do the breath-holding underwater challenge. Whoever stayed longest would win a soda. They started and were shocked to see Komi unleashing her inner aqua woman. She won all their sodas, and while she later sat with Tadano, observing her usual silence protocol, Osana appeared. However, when she saw an NPC diving from a diving board, she felt she could do it too, and ran toward there immediately. Komi also ran after her but tripped and fell in the process. Tadano quickly tried to attend to her, but got hit by incoming Ren, who was also coming to attend to her idol. Komi got treatment at the clinic, and seeing her condition, Osana suggested they go home, but Komi grabbed a book and told them they could go have fun and not to worry about her. Osana immediately replied that she was returning to the lazy river then and dragged Tadano and Ren along with her, telling them they needed to continue playing like nothing happened so Komi wouldn't go thinking she ruined everyone's fun. As they all played, Komi sat alone, feeling a little terrible and bored. Tadano appeared at that moment and told her not to worry that her friends were gonna hate her. She then told him that she had fun but didn't like that she was feeling like she ruined the whole thing. Tadano suddenly splashed water on her face and told her everyone was chill, so he stretched his hand toward her to come have some fun wet moments. Insert Sue's dog meme. Osana sprayed Tadano with her water gun at that moment, and the whole scene soon went full-blown water gun fight mode. On their way back home, Tadano just stared at Komi and was glad she had fun. The next day, Komi prepared to go to the library, and as she stepped out of her home, she suddenly found a cicada by the entrance and ran back to hide behind her mom like an idiot. Her dad appeared, just staring and not speaking a word, and Shuko wondered how he and Komi used to talk then. Apparently, Komi's father also had social anxiety. They both soon headed out, and this had to be the quietest conversation in the show. They got to an ice cream shop, and both just sat there without a word, which left strangers in the same shop wondering if they were fighting or something. They managed to order something, and Kom's father, who had been struggling to ask her about her school, finally asked, making him excited, so he gave her a head pat. At the library later, Komi got a book, and as she went through it by the bookshelf, some simps were awestruck by her beauty. She got nervous to go meet the receptionist to fill in for a borrow, so she decided to sit there and read instead. Just as she began read, a jit suddenly began to cry, causing her to panic. However, the jit stopped crying as he saw the most thing his eyes had even seen, unlike his mom's paper bag face. He continued to stare until his mom left with him, but young bro was still locked in on using the baby riz. He waved at her with his tiny hands, and Komi returned the gesture. Just then, Tadano appeared, and seeing this cute moment, he turned back and left, forgetting what he had initially gone to the library for. Some hours later, on Komi's way home, she saw a park and branched off to have some fun. Meanwhile, Tadano was on his way back to the library after remembering what he wanted to do, but he surprisingly saw Komi at the park, and turned back again because this was too cute for his brain to process. A few days later, Komi and her creepy family were on their way to her grandpa's grave, and in the car, only Shuko was talking with no response from the others because their family invented social anxiety. At the graveyard, while the others spent a little time paying their respects, Komi turned the whole thing into a shrine and spent the hours thinking her words instead of talking. They visited her grandma after where Komi met her aunt and cousin Agari. Agari was very shy to see her because they had not seen in a long time, but Komi suddenly appeared behind her, scaring the heck out of her. Komi, wanting to calm her since she also had social anxiety, started to tickle her in the creepiest way possible, causing her to twitch on the ground like she was in Cloud 9. Afterward, they got along again, but the moment between both was hella awkward as they didn't even speak a word to each other. They soon played some board games, and while at it, Shuko came to tell Komi to go see her grandma before dinner as the custom of the family was to seek Granny's wisdom. So she left for her room immediately, and just as she got to the entrance, she saw her dad coming out looking like he just got thrashed. She went in anyway and took her sit. The grandma then asked a couple of questions that she just responded to by nodding. Just then, Granny asked her if she had made new friends at school, and she nodded yes, making her happy, so she told Komi to come rest her head on her lap. In this position, she suddenly asked if Komi had met any special someone, immediately sending blood to her brain. Granny asked for Komi's phone and realized she had been speaking to a guy named Tadano, though technically she had not been speaking. But Granny said she didn't approve. Later that day, Tadano was invited to a festival, and he went there in a yukata. Komi soon appeared in her yukata too, but she quickly got nervous as she saw Tadano, worried that the yukata didn't suit her. However, Tadano quickly clarified that she was the most beautiful girl in town that night. Komi wanted to reply him but realized that she didn't come with her notebook. Just then, Osana appeared with a crowd of people, leaving Tadano wondering what was going on, but she just said some nonsense before walking away with them. Tadano thought they should go with them, but Komi just stood there without moving. She tried calling his name but struggled to, which made him think she was nervous because she didn't have what to write on. He assured her he was there with her, and then they headed to a shooting game center for some target practice. Tadano didn't disappoint in flopping as usual, while Komi gave him an ominous stare that made him shiver. He asked her to give it a try too, and as she stepped to the gun, Makeru suddenly grabbed a gun, ready to compete with her again. The contest began, and Komi quickly won in 3 rounds, causing Makeru to cheat on the last one. Next on the list, Osana suggested they play this squid game thingy, but as they began, she quickly got frustrated after failing on the 15th try. Tadano and Komi also decided to try it out, and while at it, Tadano noticed Komi had been acting strange all day, which made him wonder what was going on. He concluded that she might not be having fun, but just then, Komi stuttered that he looked cute, shocking him. He immediately realized that this was what she had been trying to tell him all along. His brain got fried instantly from embarrassment. Following that, they went to play the rope lottery and Osana stepped up first, desiring to win the largest box, but she got fooled and won just an envelope instead. Tadano went next, and while he considered which rope to select to win the top prize, he noticed the old woman got scared whenever he held a particular rope, so he pulled that up immediately only to realize that he was fooled. However, when Komi stepped forward to try, she realized the hag's trick and pulled up a PS5, shocking the woman. A few minutes later, Ren appeared with a piece of sausage and asked innocent Komi to get on her knees for some gok, shocking Tadano. However, Osana bit the sausage instead because she loved it thick and brown. Some moments later, Tadano and Komi lost track of Osana, and while they waited for her, Tadano told Komi that it was fun meeting with everyone, and Komi wrote on the ground that it was fun with just the two of them being together too, but she got embarrassed and quickly erased it. However, before Tadano could give it a thought, Osana and her group arrived, and he stood up to meet them. The next day, they all met at Tadano's house, and as they sat to talk, Osana confessed that one of the reasons she wanted to meet was because she had not done anything in her summer homework, and so they should show her theirs for her to copy. The others were disappointed to hear this, and while they began to trash talk her for being lazy, she stated that only those who had done theirs should cast the first stone. This exposed Tadano, who also had not lifted a pen, and Osana told him he had never disappointed her with his unseriousness. However, the idiot still had the mouth to say she shouldn't copy though. This caused Osana to express her sadness because the summer break was ending, which meant there was no more fun together. The others also contributed in this, and suddenly Komi began to feel emotional, shocking them. They asked her what was wrong, and she replied that she had never wished summer could be longer before like she currently was, causing them to melt. School resumed the following week, and all the students were sad because summer break had ended. Meanwhile, some of the students got excited to see Komi again, and seeing how everyone acted around Komi, an ugly girl named Nokoko got jealous. She never always wanted to resume back to school because no one cared if she existed, and this made her break down in tears. Later that day, while she walked to class, she continued her usual routine of thinking about how miserable her life was. She had always been insecure and had the self-esteem of a damp sock, so whenever the other girls were being sassy in their short skirts, she always put her uniform 5 centimeters below the knee. However, this new term, she decided to get a little frisky, so she pulled her skirt up above her knee, and she was not gonna let her fears stop her. Just then, she saw Komi and instantly began to glaze. She wished she could be like her. Osana appeared at that moment with her trouble, and this time, she didn't ask. She commanded Komi to go buy her a particular type of sandwich you won't find on any menu, claiming she was too busy being fabulous to go herself. Tadano tried to object to this, but the silly Komi agreed without blinking, and seeing this, Nokoko got excited, thinking this was her opportunity to get closer. Nokoko was a shy country girl who had just moved to the city and was convinced Komi was the ultimate city girl boss, so she had made it her life mission to study Komi's every move like she was preparing for an exam. She successfully stalked Komi to the shop, and when Komi entered, she thought to follow her too. However, Komi got freaked upon seeing the place full of classy people, and cowardly left, shocking Nokoko, but she thought this was just Komi being classy. Komi entered again and pointed at the sandwich she wanted, but she became more terrified when the staff began to bombard her with questions on how she wanted the toppings and all. While she shook, not knowing how to answer, the staff decided to make something random for her, and she left after she got the sandwich. This amused the idiotic stalker, as she was surprised that Komi placed her order without a single word, and she thought of doing the same too. Meanwhile, she didn't know Tadano was watching. Komi returned to Osana, who got disappointed that she brought the wrong thing this time again. Fast forward to the weekend, Nakanaka invited Komi over to hang out and play video games, but after one match, she realized Komi didn't even know how to hold the controller properly. The whole place was too silent that Nakanaka feared she might leave due to boredom, so Nakanaka had no choice than to call for backup Osana. Osania pulled up with Tadano, and when Nakanaka tried to warn him that it was a girl's room, Osana told her not to worry since he would fade into the background anyway. Osana suggested they all play a knockoff Super Mario game. Komi, of course, was clueless, but Tadano patiently began teaching her the controls like a loving dad training his youngin. While the chaos unfolded, Osana was on the verge of winning until Komi accidentally launched a mud ball at her, knocking her out and handing Nakanaka the win. Everyone was stunned, but Komi just sat there like she didn't know what she did. A few days later, Osana dragged Komi to help her with her part-time job of handing out tissues on the street. But Komi stood there like a silent statue, nervously offering tissues with her eyes, but people walked past like she was invisible. Meanwhile, Osana was being her usual loud and dramatic self, giving out tissues like she was hosting a giveaway. Just when Komi was about to retire from the tissue game forever, a random lady in desperate need finally took one from her hand, and like magic, others started coming up for tissues too. Before long, there was a whole line forming. Then Ren popped up from whatever rock she lives under and started acting like Komi's personal manager, telling people to queue up. By the end of the day, the tissues were all gone and Osana thanked her for the hard work, promising to pay her a third of the profit. Following that, Tadano arrived in school one morning, and Komi noticed a black seed on his face. She immediately began to panic, wondering if she should tell him. She pointed at her face instead so he could realize on his own. But Bro was clueless what she was talking about, which prompted her to ask if he was Tadano because the Tadano she knew would have somehow managed to read her mind. However, she feared it would hurt more if others saw him like that. Osana appeared just in time, and while Komi thought she would see it and tell him, she saw the same seed on Osana's face too. The others also appeared one after the other, with moles on their faces that sent Cora spiraling. But she suddenly woke and realized it was all a dream. The next day, when Tadano arrived at school, she checked his face immediately. Later that day, Komi heard Tadano call Osana by her first name, so she told him to call her by her first name too, shocking Tadano. Osana intervened and pressured Tadano to say her first name, but Bro struggled like his life was at stake. Seeing he could not say it, she turned to Komi too and told her to say it too since she mentioned it first. Komi thought this was easy peasy and immediately wrote Tadano's first name in her notepad, but Osana told her she needed to say it, making her really embarrassed that she chickened out and said they should just keep to their usual last names. Just then, Osana casually mentioned that a sesame seed was on Tadano's face, shocking Komi. The following week, the school threw a sports festival, and that was when Komi first met a second-year student named Netsuno. Netsuno was super athletic and wished Komi good luck, but the moment she touched Komi's hand, Ren went full psycho mode and made their entire class swear they had to win like it was now a matter of life and death. The first event was a stretching contest. Whoever had the best stretch would win 10 points for their class. The vice principal was judging, and it looked like Netsuno had it in the bag until she spotted Komi and suddenly changed her mind. Next up was tug of war, but Komi's class ended up losing because her teammates kept passing out from being too close to her. Then came the mixed obstacle race. Agari came in dead last, but thanks to her jiggle physics, she received more points. Before she fainted from the effort, she tagged Nakanaka, who took over and gave it her all, even though she was struggling. Right before she could collapse, she managed to tap Tadano, who continued the race while everyone shouted his name like he was the main character. Meanwhile, Osana noticed Komi wasn't cheering and she told her to join them too. Just when Tadano felt like giving up, he suddenly saw Komi cheering for him in noise cancellation mode, and that gave him the power boost of 1,000 anime protagonists. And he somehow finished third. As the games went on, it suddenly started raining, and Komi's mom showed up to support her. The moment the class saw her, they freaked out, thinking Komi was now talking, but they soon realized it was her mom. Komi, of course, got super embarrassed and tried to get her mom to leave, but Mama Komi just smiled and told her she was happy to see her enjoying herself. After the rain cleared, they moved on to a treasure hunt. Komi and her teammates snatched most of the items from Tadano, but when Osana tried to get some too, Tadano refused. They played a few more games, and then it was time for the final relay. Netsuno tried to shake Komi's hand for good luck, but Komi was too nervous and didn't respond, so Netsuno just gave her a friendly gesture and went to her spot. Both girls got the baton at almost the same time, and it became a full-on anime rivalry race, but halfway through, Komi slipped in the mud and fell behind. She thought this was the end as she remained in the mud where she fell, but the moment she saw her friends and classmates cheering, she picked up the baton and continued running immediately as fast as she could. Unfortunately, Netsuno had already pulled ahead and won, while she came in second place. After the race, everyone rushed to check on Komi to make sure she was okay, and seeing the love everyone had for her, Netsuno almost broke character, saying they were real friends because they cared more about Komi than the result. By the end of the day, Komi's class came second, and she had to represent them in collecting the certificate, but she was physically shaking because all eyes were on her. The next day, Tadano got buried under a mountain of student council work. Luckily, his friend Neni showed up to help. Komi wanted to come along too, but Neni gently told her they could handle it and walked off with Tadano. On the way to the office, Neni asked if Tadano was being bullied, but he said he was fine and even talked about how nice Komi was, though people didn't always understand her. Right then, they noticed Komi spying on them because she was jealous. Neni remembered what Tadano said and tried talking to Komi, but Komi panicked and ran off. Seeing this, Tadano had to explain her behavior like he was translating dolphin language. The next time Nani helped Tadano again, Komi almost left, but since she couldn't stand another girl with Tadano, she nervously came back to ask if she could help too. Tadano agreed immediately, and seeing the chemistry between them, Neni excused herself immediately, claiming she had something to do, even though she had volunteered to help initially. The following day, she apologized to Neni for ignoring her earlier, and Neni smiled before whispering in her ears that she was rooting for she and Tadano. Komi turned bright red and bolted off immediately, leaving Tadano confused. He asked Neni what the heck she told her, but Neni just laughed and said it was a secret. Later that day, Komi asked Tadano to go with her to a photo booth after school as she'd overheard some students talking about it and wanted to try it too. Before he could say anything, Osana showed up as always, excitedly recommending a place. Ren forced herself into the group too because she simply cannot allow Komi to breathe without her. After school, the squad hit the photo booth and took a bunch of pictures, and seeing them, Osana couldn't stop laughing when she saw the results. Ren, on the other hand, was so overwhelmed by Komi's cuteness that she had a nosebleed. On their way out, Tadano noticed Komi staring at some cute cat keychains, so the next day he tried to give her one as a gift. But he discovered that Komi also got something similar, had already bought the exact same one. Instead of just accepting his gift, she offered to trade with him, and they both swapped. A few days later, their classroom turned into a full-blown war zone because these clowns couldn't decide on what to do for the school festival. Osana, being the professional chaos manager, told everyone to present their ideas and then vote. This felt like a genius idea until every single idea had one thing in common. They were all about Komi. They all desired to see her in specific outfits or take up a particular role. As expected, no one wanted to back down because they all thought their idea was top tier, and while the whole class argued like unpaid actors on a reality show, Tadano, the only one with half a brain, walked up to Komi and asked what she actually wanted. She wrote down Maid Cafe on her notepad, and just like that, world peace was achieved. The class magically agreed and got to work like Komi was their supreme leader. While they were preparing for the cafe, Komi just stood there feeling useless because her classmates wouldn't let her do jack. Later, Cade was sent to the store to get more materials, and she asked Komi to tag along. Nene joined them too because she knew Cade had the attention span of a soap bubble. And of course, as soon as they got to the store, Cade disappeared like a ghost in a horror film. Nene freaked out and told Komi they had to split up before Featherbrain Cade did something dramatic. After some searching, Komi found her, and Cade casually apologized like she didn't just vanish like a magician. Komi asked why she even invited her to the store in the first place, and Cade said it was because she wanted to be friends. Komi tried to reply, but by the time she was done writing, Cade had gone AWOL again. Somewhere in the mix, Komi somehow ended up playing with a chainsaw like she was filming Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the poor store guy nearly passed out trying to stop her. On their way back, Nene was relieved that nobody died, and Cade suggested they team up to make the festival a banger. The next day, they went around town giving out flyers like political campaign agents, trying to lure people to their Maid Cafe. The night before the event, Komi helped make rice balls and passed them around to their zombie-looking classmates who had worked themselves half to death. Then came the big day. Komi showed up in the maid costume Osana picked out, but immediately wanted to disappear into the floor because it was way too short. So, they found her a more modest outfit before she fainted from shame. Soon, customers started arriving, including one weirdo who treated maid cafes like they were holy grounds. This guy judged every maid like he was on America's Next Top Waitress, but the moment he saw Komi, he froze. He thought she looked like she hated him with every fiber of her being, not knowing it was her default mode. So he panicked, scarfed his food like it was poisonous, and rushed to leave. But Komi, in her usual shy, shaky voice, managed to ask him to come again, causing him to melt. Following this, Osana announced to Tadano that they still had the maid outfit Komi rejected, and she bullied him into wearing it. While his fellow guys thought he was being stupid, Osana told him he had to remain in the dress till they were done. A few moments later, Shuko appeared and all the boys leaped for joy. She called Shosuke, Komi's brother, and in seeing him, all the girls glazed him harder than Duke Dennis fans, but he got uncomfortable and left immediately. Tadano's sister soon came in, but when she saw him dressed like that, she took his picture and called their mom immediately to report that her suspicions concerning Tadano was right. He became embarrassed by this and was almost cussing Osana when Komi came to sit beside him and told him he looked cute in the dress. As the day rolled on, the maid cafe was actually popping, But that wasn't enough for Osana. She suddenly thought it'd be a genius move to pull in more customers by offering some irresistible deals. So she came up with an idea, which was to start handing out coupons like she owned the school and make Komi parade around like a human signboard to attract more people. But nah, even that wasn't enough spice for her. She switched gears and started charging for premium services that had zero business being on a school menu. Things like hand-holding, massages, and some other P-graded things that shouldn't be mentioned. Obviously, the homeroom teacher wasn't about to let that fly, so she shut down Osana's scam operation and made her return every single coin she collected like a failed Ponzi scheme. With her money-making dreams in the gutter, Osana suggested they go tour the school and check out what other classes were doing. While walking around, Komi got distracted by literally nothing and started spinning around like a broken record. The others almost left her behind, but eventually, she caught up. They kept exploring until they stumbled upon a haunted house, and Osana dragged them in. Now, haunted houses are supposed to be scary, but this one was full of cheap paper cutouts and dollar store decorations. Still, Komi was shaking like a leaf. The girl acting as the ghost got all nervous because scaring the school goddess felt like a sin. But while she stood there overthinking her life choices, Komi and the crew just casually walked past and left the haunted house like nothing happened. Outside, a huge crowd had gathered to watch people scream their love confessions from the roof. Komi, who had never seen this level of romantic chaos before, asked if they could go watch, and Osana agreed. When they arrived, Ren was already up there, yelling her lungs out and confessing her eternal love for Komi. The idiot even proposed marriage on a school roof. Komi, as usual, said absolutely nothing, but Ren wasn't fazed. She told the audience that Komi was just being shy, which wasn't wrong. Then, like the menace she is, Osana dragged Komi up to the roof and made her promote their cafe. The crowd waited like she was about to drop some life-changing speech, but all Komi could say was meow like a cat, and everyone looked confused for a second until their brains rewired and assumed she was saying she was a cat maid. Realizing this, they lost their minds and promised to visit. After Komi escaped the rooftop humiliation, Tadano gave Osana a mini sermon for stressing Komi out, but Osana just laughed it off and asked Komi if she had fun. Komi nodded, but before things could settle down, a random girl pulled up with 2 monks and told Osana her homeroom teacher signed her up for meditation as punishment for turning the cafe into a sketchy business. The monks took her away while she screamed like an immature jit losing her favorite toy. Tadano and Komi continued the school tour like their scammy friend hadn't just been kidnapped by peaceful monks. Along the way, they'd bumped into Nene and her buddy Cade, and the squad enjoyed the rest of the festival until everyone had to gather in the gym for the big announcement. Plot twist: Komi's class won the top prize. But then, plot twist number 2, because of Osana's shady little business moves, they didn't get the prize. Osana tried to give one of her motivational TED Talks, saying the prize didn't matter and what truly counted was the fun they had, but nobody cared. Everyone mentally uninvited her from group chats. After all that drama, the after party kicked off. Komi wanted to dance but was too shy to say anything, so Tadano did the gentleman thing and asked her to dance. They started swaying awkwardly like it was their first time on legs, and then Osana crashed their moment. Soon, more classmates joined, and it turned into a full-blown dance floor. Later on, the party moved to a karaoke room. Komi was sweating bullets because Osana said everyone had to sing. When her turn came, she was so nervous she couldn't sing a single word, but somehow, the whole class cheered like they were watching American Idol. When it reached Tadano's time, no one gave 2 flips about what he was doing, and the poor guy just sang to empty souls until he saw Komi listening. That one look from her gave him enough power to unleash his singing skill. He soon finished the song and tried to return to his seat in peace, but Osana wasn't having it. She dragged both him and Komi back to the mic and forced them into a group sing-along to wrap up the night. Clap the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're yet to for more plot-filled adventures. Want to see another goated recap? Then watch this video right here.